Because the next thing we have to turn to is what's going to happen with money when the war takes place. The question that's from Perth in Australia is how long after the war will money be demonetized? We are now in a situation that is unique. No one in the world has certain knowledge. And so when your brother Imran puts his neck out to offer an opinion, I can be wrong. And I have been wrong in the past. But I have no fear of expressing an opinion, even though that I can be wrong, because the possibility exists that I can also be right. I believe that when nuclear war takes place, if the petrodollar monetary system has not as yet collapsed, that it will collapse with nuclear war. That there will be no more US dollar commanding the world. And last night I mentioned in Barakpur, and I know my subject of monetary economics. I have studied international monetary economics, and I'm now applying Islamic eschatology to monetary economics. I don't know if there's any other scholar in the world of Islam who is doing that. If there is, please let me know who he is so I can contact him and benefit from his knowledge. I'm applying Islamic eschatology to monetary economics to say that once the US dollar collapses, every other currency or paper money in the world will collapse. None can survive, none. Where's the proof? I'll have to give you a long lecture on monetary economics to explain to you. So then how will you buy and sell if you survive? When there's no paper money anymore, what will you use to buy and sell? Barter has its limitations. Barter is I have tomatoes and you have melanjan or eggplant, and I give you my tomatoes for your eggplant. This is barter. But if I want to buy rice and flour, the one who has the rice may not be willing to accept tomatoes. So what will I do? How will I get the rice? Barter has its limitations. I need money. And money in the Quran is dinar and dirham. Money in the hadith, in the sunnah is dinar and dirham. And you know that. Even the Salafi know that. ISIS, the Islamic State, they have brought dinar and dirham into the territory in which they take control, yes. So what I would suggest is that you make sure you have some dinar and dirham stock up so that you can use that to buy and to sell when the war takes place. And the war could be 1 week from now, it could be 1 month from now. How can we get dinar and dirham? Answer, I have said it before, and it's time for us to get up and do something about it. I said to you that at the time of Jesus, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, the temple or Masjid al-Aqsa, the temple in Jerusalem was minting its own gold and silver. Because the Roman government was minting gold and silver coins with a human head on it, a graven image which was haram. So the temple would not accept that money. So the temple was minting its own gold and silver coins in the time of the Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Jesus alayhi salam. And I have come to the conclusion that if the temple could be doing that, Masjid al-Aqsa, if they could be doing that at the time of the Prophet of Allah, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, it can be done again today. And so every masjid in the world, every Hindu temple, every Hindu mandir in the world, every Christian church, every Christian cathedral should now be thinking about how can we mint gold and silver coins so that we can offer it to the people. The International Monetary Fund says it is prohibited to use gold and silver as money. But when the nuclear war takes place, goodbye to the IMF. There will be no more IMF. So there will be no more prohibition after that. If we can do it here in Trinidad, we need to have in Trinidad an alliance of Christians, of Hindus and Muslims. If you are Hindus and you are listening to this talk this morning, and it will also be rebroadcast on Thursday night, if you are Hindus, if you are Pandits, if you are Hindu leaders, Imran is saying to you, let us come together. If you are Christians, you are a priest, you are a pastor, you are a minister, Imran, your brother Imran is saying to you, let's come together to protect and preserve the religious way of life in this country. And let us come together to try to provide our people with gold and silver coins that we will mint ourselves, and it will be available. People can go to their church, they can go to their mandir, they can go to their masjid, and they can get the gold and silver coins. Time is running out, and if we don't do it, we'll be caught with the nuclear war, and we will not be prepared for it. And we have only ourselves to blame for that. Another question from Perth. He asks, is there any benefit in buying silver if most people don't have the silver with which to trade? The answer is, if you have gold and silver, you will at least be able to preserve your wealth from evaporating. If you have all your money in electronic money or all your money in paper, the paper can evaporate, electronic money can evaporate, and you'll be left with no money, and you only have yourself to blame. But if you take some of your money and you put it in gold and silver, that can survive. So you are doing something that is sensible to preserve your wealth. Are you listening to me this morning? Or you're going to simply go back to sleep and forget what I've said? If you have gold and silver, you'll actually be able to preserve your money. If you can't use it to buy and sell, at least you'll be preserving your wealth. Would it be better to give charity in paper and electronic money or in silver with graven images? The silver or the gold with graven images is haram, and the electronic and paper money is haram. Both are haram. But in our market, we will accept gold and silver coins no matter where in the world it is minted. So it is better to have the gold and silver even with the graven image than to have the paper money which will evaporate. Finally, here's another question from Perth in Australia. He speaks about civil war against Islam in the Western world before World War III. Can you kindly elaborate? Yes. Remember, I don't know when the Great War will start. But there is a plan afoot to try to provoke civil war in Europe. And the country which is most endangered, most vulnerable of all, is again Germany. Germany was taken for a ride in the First World War. Germany was taken for a ride in the Second World War. And Germany is still being taken for a ride now in preparation for the Great War. The ride is that 1 million refugees have been allowed to enter into Germany. 1 million? That's a recipe for disaster. It is meant to provoke a backlash, to wake up the German people. Eventually they'll wake up to such an extent that there is a clash between the German people and the refugees who've come from abroad, from Syria, from Africa, from Afghanistan and so on. And in that clash, Islam will get a bad image. People will be paid, yes, lots of dollars will be used to pay thugs to commit acts of terrorism and so on. killing people and so on, so that you could get a bad image for Islam, so that when they wage their war in the Middle East against Islam and the Muslims, whoever survives in the world will say, yes, the Muslims deserve it. Look at what they've done in the Western world. The next question comes from Sydney in Australia. Oh, we have many Australian questions this morning. I'm from Sydney. The church bells of St. Charles Maronite Catholic Church, Punchbowl, are ringing now as I write to you at 6:58 p.m. This is Sunday, April the 16th, 2017, and we're celebrating Easter. He says, I studied some economics at university, and I'm interested in your eschatology. He's not a Muslim, huh? I'm very interested in the truth. I've read your paragraph, and I'm deeply honored by your wisdom. I believe that China has a great role to play in the world. And I believe that Judea is not able to subdue China and subdue Asia in the world. In your further lectures, can you kindly describe your thoughts on China? My answer is the Chinese have shown themselves to be some of the wisest people so far. There are millions of ATM machines all over China. And any Chinese can go and buy gold and silver coins from a machine. Take your paper money and converted it to gold and silver coins. That's what the Chinese have done. Defying the IMF. Do you know any other country doing that? Is your Pakistan doing that? Your Islamic Republic of Pakistan? Does Pakistan dare to do what China has done? Does Trinidad and Tobago dare to do what China has done? No. The Chinese are showing themselves as leaders of mankind by making gold and silver coins readily available to all the Chinese people, because they are aware that this monetary system is fragile, it can collapse, and when it collapses, the Chinese people must be ready, prepared to be able to respond to the collapse. What is the rest of the world doing? Number two, China is a proud civilization. I'm not talking about Singapore, and I'm not talking about Hong Kong. I have visited Singapore so many times, I lost count the number of times I've been to Singapore. And I visited Hong Kong also once. Hong Kong Island and Hong Kong mainland, both. China is a proud civilization, and China will not bend her knee to these people who want to rule the world from Washington and London and Paris. No. Russia also will not bend her knee. And we thank Allah. Yes, the Salafis, of course, because they take their state-of-the-art weapons from Santa Claus to wage their bogus jihad, and they take all the money that comes in suitcases to wage their bogus jihad. It comes from Santa Claus, yes. But China and Russia are refusing to bow their knees before the greatest oppressors that mankind has ever known. And we are proud of China, and we are proud of Russia. And because they're refusing to bend their knees, this is why the world is going to experience nuclear war. But we say, from the world of Islam, that even if millions of us have to die so that the oppressor will bite the dust, we don't mind dying. Russia doesn't mind dying. China doesn't mind death. Korea doesn't mind dying. But those who are in the U.S. Armed Forces for a green card and for a job and for money, they're afraid to die. They don't want to die. But we are not afraid to die. China is showing leadership qualities. That's right. And China will not back down. No. And Russia will not back down. No. And so the world is now heading for nuclear war, and you can thank Washington for that. The role for China is that China is offering the world an alternative monetary system to the bogus petrodollar monetary system. And I believe in terms of monetary economics, China is taking the lead over Russia. But I am not that much of a monetary economist. I don't have enough time to study the subject to be able to offer an expert analysis. No, that has to be left to scholars more learned than I am. In what way is China leading the world in offering to mankind an alternative monetary system to the bogus petrodollar monetary system? We have a question now from Canada, and he says he's not Muslim. Sheikh Imran Hosein, I love your videos. I follow your guidance, but only one video of yours I didn't like. It was a video in which you said about the Alawi people in Syria. The government of Syria is led for the longest while now by a splinter sect of the Shia called the Alawi. Alawi from Ali. Alawi from Ali. Bashar al-Assad and his father Hafiz al-Assad belong to the Alawi people. But Bashar is married, I believe, to a Sunni Muslim. You said that the Alawi people worship Ali, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Sheikh Imran, that is wrong. We, the Alawi, do not worship Ali. We worship Allah and Allah alone. I offer my apologies. I was wrongly informed. I seek forgiveness. May Allah forgive me for having said something about you which is incorrect. I accept that you have corrected me and that you do not worship Ali, the Alawi people. You worship Allah and you worship Allah alone. The next question is from United States. He says, I've been watching your videos for about 3 months now. I thank Allah for helping me discover your videos because I have a lot of knowledge. I now have a lot of knowledge about Islam that I didn't have a couple months ago. You are the only scholar of Islam that I know that is teaching the true religion of Islam, and I thank you for that. No. There are many other scholars. I just have some questions which I hope you'll answer. I realize that the American dollar bill has one eye on it. Oh yes, the American dollar bill has a one eye, and Dajjal has a one eye. And so they are telling you up front, if you are blind, still you should be able to see that the American dollar bill is connected with Dajjal. Meaning that the entire monetary system based on the US dollar has come from Dajjal. That's the implication. He says, I live in the United States, but I really don't want to live in this country anymore. I want to make hijrah, I want to migrate and live in a place where I can practice Islam the right way. Do you have any suggestions of where I should live? My answer to you is leave the cities and go to the remote countryside. Make sure you have your own food and water and stay away from the cities. That's where you have more security. I don't have any particular country that I can recommend. He said the dinar and dirham are mentioned in the Quran. And I want to know whether or not we'll be punished in the hereafter for using paper money when it is basically impossible to use dinar and dirham in today's world. There is a verse in Surah Al-Taghabun of the Quran in which Allah says, Ittaqullaha mastata'tum. Fear Allah to the extent that you have capacity to do so. So when something lies beyond your capacity, you will not be accountable to Allah for that. But to say that we cannot use dinar and dirham anywhere in the world today and therefore we are excused. No, even Imran Hosein will have to answer on Judgment Day, because our Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, he said the time will come when a believer, in order to preserve his religion, his deen, would have to flee to the mountainsides, to places where rain falls, taking with him some sheep and goats, meaning you won't need dinar and dirham there. You want to be able to live a life in which you can preserve your religion. And this bogus monetary system is an attack on the religious way of life. And this is why I say, let us, if we cannot get dinar and dirham, then let us retreat to the mountainside. Let us retreat to the, remote countryside. I remember giving a khutbah at the Jama Masjid in San Fernando in Trinidad 9 years ago. 9 years ago, yes. 9 years ago I gave a khutbah and I asked, I said, let us try to build a market in here in Trinidad. And in that market, let us try to use dinar and dirham for buying and selling. And they looked at me as though I came from Mars or Venus. Question from Amsterdam in Netherlands. Kind Sheikh, can you comment on Turkey's role in the events which are now unfolding? I don't think that his name is Erdogan. It's pronounced as Erdogan, spelled as Erdogan, but the pronunciation is Erdogan, the president of Turkey. I don't trust him, because he played a leading role in the events of Libya, to overthrow the government of Libya so that NATO now controls Libya. That's what he did, and therefore I don't trust him. The Prophet said a Muslim does not put his foot in the same hole twice. So I don't trust him, and Russia should not trust him. He's now had a referendum. I don't know how bogus the referendum was, no, I don't have the knowledge. But he's now going to become the emperor. He has the powers now in Turkey to do what he wants to do. And of course the master plan is to try to recover the Ottoman Empire, so-called Islamic Empire, which requires Turkey to expand its territory. What I can say is that the policies of the Turkish government at this time is leading Turkey without doubt to civil war. When that civil war takes place, I believe it is that civil war which will eventually culminate in the conquest of Constantinople. The very name Constantinople cannot be used today in Turkey. No, they banned the use of the word Constantinople because they don't want people to know about the hadith. When Nabi Muhammad ﷺ came back from the Isra and Miraj, he came back to tell us that after the Great War, in which 99 out of every 100 who fight in that war would be killed, after that Great War, he said the next event which is to take place is the conquest of Constantinople. And he praised the army, and he praised the commander. لَتَفْتَحَنَّ الْقُنْسْتَنْتِنِيَةِ, he said, وَلَنِعْمَ الْأَمِيرُ آمِرُهَا وَلَنِعْمَ الْجَيْشُ ذَلِكَ الْجَيْشُ. Those were his words. If the Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, refers to the city by the name Constantinople, then is it not Sunnah? to use that name, but they've changed it. And they went back in history to an old name, Istanbul. And now Constantinople is no more used. But when we conquer the city of Constantinople, goodbye to NATO. Goodbye. We'll return the city to the old name. Yes, it will be known as Constantinople once again. And the entire Orthodox Christian world will be smiling and happy. And when we conquer Constantinople, we'll return Hagia Sophia, the Christian cathedral, which functioned as the major Orthodox Christian cathedral for 1,000 years before the Ottoman Turks conquered the city and took that cathedral and made it into a masjid, to the eternal shame and disgrace of the world of Islam. No, we return that cathedral to the Christians. We say, this is your cathedral. We will apologize to them for what was done in taking a Christian cathedral and shamefully and disgracefully converting it into a masjid. There are people in Turkey who will listen to me, and they have not been bought and sold like cattle by the government of Turkey. No, they have their hearts in the right places, and they're recognizing that what I'm speaking is the truth. The conquest of Constantinople will take place after the Great War. And then at that time, it is an alliance of Muslims and Christians. The two people who wait for the return of Jesus, these two people, Muslims and Orthodox Christians, we're the ones who liberate the Holy Land. And the Prophet of Allah, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, will then rule the world with Imam al-Mahdi, inshallah, and justice will triumph over injustice and oppression, and truth will triumph over all rivals. We do not have time for more questions, and I think I'm going to have to take a break from questions now so that I can continue. One last question. This one is from Britain, and he says, Sheikh, in your last lecture, you mentioned that using a credit card is like borrowing money and interest. I use a credit card very rarely, but I make sure that I clear the payment by the due date, so no interest is incurred. Is that okay? No, it's not. When you use a credit card, you are borrowing money from somebody, and you agree to pay interest if you do not pay back the money by a certain date. If the credit card were to say that if you do not pay back the money by a certain day, you agree to drink a glass of whiskey, would you sign that agreement? Huh? No, you would not. Well, agreeing to pay the interest is worse than drinking the whiskey. So the agreement by which you get a credit card, that agreement is haram. Don't take a credit card. I remember I went to New Jersey and I met with a very famous Shia Sheikh. And while I was sitting with him, he took out his wallet and I saw the credit card. I said, Sheikh, what happened? He said, no, I use it, but I pay every month before I don't pay any interest. I said, no, Sheikh. The agreement is haram because you're agreeing to pay interest in the event that you not pay in time. We pray that Allah may forgive us our sins, that we may live long enough for next week when we can continue, inshallah, with these lectures. And if nuclear war is to come, may Allah have mercy on our souls and forgive us our sins. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.